So we've looked at how we can select things with jQuery using the simple $ syntax and just putting in any kind of a CSS selector inside quotation marks here. So just passing in a string really into that function, if you will. Now, we've also talked about adding classes. We can do add class. So we can have a predefined class and then add that particular class doing something like that. So that's pretty cool. But what about interactions, right? Again, that's where JavaScript really shines, is interactions. So jQuery makes it really easy to add events. Remember, we said in JavaScript, there's this concept of events and callbacks. So an event like a click occurs, then we call back or run a function and have it do something. So let's look at how we can do that with jQuery. Let's select this H1. So we can select it in a multitude of ways. Let's just do it like this. Since there's only one on the page, that's pretty simple. We just selected it. Now, if we want to, maybe have it react to a click, we can do that by simply just doing with jQuery .click. Okay, now watch this. You got to be careful here. You want to do in parentheses, and you're going to say, okay, when that click occurs, we want to do something to it. So you have to write function here. Okay, we're going to do a function. Remember, functions are like verbs. That's when you're actually wanting to do something. So when we click on it, and .click is just a special jQuery syntax for, adding an event listener. It's saying, okay, for this H1, let's listen for clicks. Let's keep an eye out for clicks. So when that click happens, in parentheses here, we're going to pass in this function and do something. So we can open up the function like that and write something. So let's just say, okay, let's take that same H1 and let's add maybe, a CSS to it. We could just do something like this, CSS, and this is jQuery syntax for CSS. You put the rule name, the property of it right here. So we'll say border for now. And then we'll say 1 pixel solid red. So that's like writing CSS in our jQuery. If I were to click, there you go. Now it's got a border of red. So it reacts. Now remember, like I said, you don't really want to be mixing your CSS in your JavaScript. So the better way to do it is have a predefined class. You could say something like border red. And then we'll just say border 1 pixel solid red. That's just basic CSS right there. Okay, so and then what we could do down here is just do add class. And then we'll say border red, the name of that class. We don't put a dot here when we do the add class method. We just say the name of it itself without the dot. So we can add a class like that, a predefined class. If I refresh the page, it's gone, but now when I click, it comes right back. So that's how we add actual events to our jQuery objects. You select the object first, and then you do this dot, and then whatever event name. So now you might be wondering, we've looked at clicks, what about like hover and some other, cooler events? Well, we can do that by searching jQuery events. If you just search for that in Google, usually the first thing that'll come up is the jQuery website itself, and you'll see their documentation. And again, like I said, they have great documentation here. You can see they categorize all the events. They've got click, they've got double click. You've got all kinds of things that you can really explore, and I urge you to look through these. You can do the hover, right? So let's try, if you were to hover over it, what if we did something? We could do hover function, and then simply do, okay, let's take that H1 or all the H1s on the page and do something to it. We could say add class. We'll add the other one this time, red text. So now if I go back here and refresh, when I hover over it, it's adding whatever CSS we had defined here for red text. Okay, so that's really interesting. We can add classes. We can do, all kinds of events just simply by looking through here. Now you are going to see some that I want to just point out to you to be aware of. Sometimes you'll see people add this bind, and that's just more of a generic, adding a generic thing. Like you can say bind, and then you can pass in whatever event. What you're doing is just binding an event. Okay, so take a look at these examples and you'll start to understand them pretty clearly. So that's a little bit about events with jQuery. It's pretty easy to do. You just select the element and then dot whatever the actual event name is, as you can see here on this website.